Yeah, I'm just going to read it to you in Vietnamese because it's such a beautiful proverb. So it goes, Đời cha mẹ ăn mặn, đời con khát nước. And it's translated to when the parent's generation eats salt, the child's generation thirsts for water.
You're listening to Stories of the Vietnamese Boat People. Hi there, I'm Tracy Nguyen Mang, creator of the Vietnamese Boat People podcast, and welcome to Season 7. This season is called Then and Now, and it's unlike any we've done before. The year 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of the Fall of Saigon, a moment that forever changed the lives of millions of Vietnamese people and has shaped the diaspora we're part of today. In past seasons, we've shared stories of escape, loss, and rebuilding. But this season, we're asking, how have we changed? What does it mean to be Vietnamese now? And where do we go from here? For this second episode of Then and Now, our host is Ngoc Bui. Growing up, Ngoc rarely heard Vietnamese family members talk about mental health. It was something unspoken, tucked away. But over time, she began to notice a quiet shift. Conversations that once felt impossible were starting to appear. Here's Ngoc.
Something happened this past Christmas that I never expected. After most of my family had left from our annual Christmas party, my cousin ended up chatting with my dad in the living room. I was sitting nearby, taking a break from cleaning. I wasn't paying much attention until I heard my cousin say in Vietnamese, "I'm pretty sure my dad is depressed. He never leaves his room or wants to talk to anybody. I just don't know what to do anymore." I definitely thought my dad would just dismiss what my cousin said. After all, when it comes to mental health struggles in my family, we always had a don't ask, don't tell policy. But instead, my dad started suggesting things to help, like going on walks with him, or even driving to my uncle's house that night to bring him to the party. I kept thinking about their conversation for weeks after, wondering if maybe something was shifting, not just for my family, but for our wider Vietnamese diaspora. Are we more openly confronting mental health struggles within our community? I brought this question to someone who knows a thing or two about mental health, my friend Jennifer. She's a family therapist and we've known each other since we were kids. I told her about what happened, and she actually had her own story from that same Christmas.
I think me and my sister are such easy victims to ads on social media. And this ad that came across it's shared, Parents Are Human.
Parents Are Human is a multilingual card game that's meant to spark deep conversations between family members.
And I bought it. I'm like, all right, Mom, Merry Christmas. This is your gift. And she opened it and she's like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, let's play. Let's try it. And then I would read her. I think one of the questions was like, what did you dream to be as a kid? And she just looked at me and laughed.
Jennifer's tried a lot of different things over the years to get her mom to talk about her life. It doesn't often work.
I got through one card and I'm like, all right, how about this one? Thinking this is really good and I want to know the answer to. But she just waved me off. She's really good at complaining about every aspect of her life. But to talk about childhood or to talk about her and her identity as a person, man, it's like pulling teeth sometimes.
Jennifer did tell me about a moment years ago when her mom opened up. Jennifer said it was when her mom was going through a hard time, so she decided to try therapy. She asked Jennifer for help with finding a provider. At the time, there was exactly one Vietnamese-speaking therapist available in the area, someone Jennifer's mom already knew from church. Jennifer told me her mom didn't feel comfortable with that, so she never went forward with therapy. It devastated Jennifer that her mom couldn't find someone, so much so it inspired her to become a therapist. Now, in a full circle way, she gets to be the therapist for Vietnamese moms like her mom. But Jennifer said talking about mental health can be a challenge for a Vietnamese community.
Our system and our ancestors have only been trying to survive. That was the only to-do list that they've had. Escaping war, escaping poverty, surviving the oceans, coming here, surviving here. And it's like, I haven't even caught a second to stop working. How do I have time to even take a breath to really reflect on how I'm doing internally? Instead, it just shows up in physical pain or physical health.
Because of this, Jennifer told me a lot of her work is about creating a safe space for her clients to start unpacking the pain, which often means not talking directly about it at all.
Yeah, I think most of the conversations I have with my elder Vietnamese aunties in therapy is, oh, I have so much pain here, I have so much pain here, I have so much pain here. And I'm like, I have a very sure idea of why that's here. Can we talk about that? Oh, no. I just want you to listen.
So you ask your clients about, where they're feeling pain,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they're pointing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's always the heart.
Mm.
It's always the heart. Yeah.
I know I have felt it in so many of our people, this aching pain in our heart, in our chest area.
That's Elizabeth Nguyen. She's a psychiatrist who grew up in Hawaii. Her parents came to Honolulu in 1975 as refugees.
Which I think speaks to the grief, the heartbreak, and the loss that all of us Vietnamese Americans in the diaspora have experienced, either ourselves or generationally. And I will say that, this pain, this individual and collective pain that we're all carrying, there's a reason we're carrying it. It's like our bodies want us to remember what our people have gone through, what we have suffered through, what we have sacrificed for. I think when I was working with the Vietnamese American community at some of the clinics I worked with, there was a lot of depression and PTSD and trauma, but I felt like those diagnoses could only tell a part of the story. There was so much more going on, especially around loss and grief, and so much unprocessed loss and grief can definitely turn into depression. But if we just treat the depression with medications and say therapy without acknowledging that maybe there's something else going on individually, collectively, and culturally around losing a country, losing a motherland, losing a home and belonging, then it's not just depression, it's all of that.
What Elizabeth helped me see is that mental health is not just an individual experience. It's something our community shares across generations. Elizabeth sees this encapsulated in an ancient Vietnamese proverb. She used it to close out a novel she wrote called Aloha Vietnam.
Yeah, I'm just going to read it to you in Vietnamese because it's such a beautiful proverb. So it goes, Đời cha mẹ ăn mặn, đời con khát nước. And it's translated to, when the parent's generation eats salt, the child's generation thirsts for water. I interpreted this proverb to mean that every generation, if they don't process the trauma and grief that they have experienced, it just gets passed on to the children. And it gets saltier and saltier with each generation until some generation can really recognize that there is grief and trauma to release. And through the tears that naturally come, that when we can access it and release it through crying and through actually releasing the tears that we've been holding so long, it does decrease the saltiness of what we pass on to our children. And that's like this vision of the salty grief and tears becoming spring water that really nourishes new life and new plants.
The roles of men and women when I was growing up was very clear cut.
This is Dennis Duan.
Like the men go to work, make the money, they go drinking after work, and then they come home drunk. And the wife would stay home and clean, take care of the kids, and take care of everything else. And that's how it was.
Dennis is a tattoo artist who wrote a memoir titled Memento, Embracing the Darkness. In it, he openly shared his family's journey of confronting this collective grief. He described watching his dad and uncles turn to alcohol and cigarettes to cope with the trauma of the war, reliving it over and over with one another in coffee shops. I asked him how these cycles affected him as he grew up. This relationship with your dad, how did it evolve over time?
He was a social alcoholic. When my mom left, he was pretty much a solo drinker. He didn't go out that much anymore, only because he had the obligation of me at home. But he had, in a sense, just given up on life. I would come home most days from school and he would just tell me, just find something to eat. But at 13, 14 years old, like, what are you going to do? You don't have a job. You don't have money. What are you going to do? So I figured it out. Either went to a friend's house or stole food from 7-Eleven or something. I had a friend that worked at KFC. They were giving me food. But yeah, he kind of just gave up.
Dennis told me more about the mindset his dad was in.
He was so set in his ways and the trauma of being poor, like in Vietnam and over here, that he still has gifts now that I've given him for Christmas 15 years ago that he hasn't opened yet, just in case he ever needs it one day. So that's his mindset. Very simple man, but stuck in that cycle.
Eventually, Dennis found his way to tattooing and started to build up his own life. Once he was stable financially, he was able to help his dad start changing his environment and his life too.
Nothing was going to change in his mind until I changed the scenario. So I moved him out of the apartment that we're at, that we had lived in all my life. I moved to a different neighborhood that was better. I got him off of Section 8, kind of unraveling everything in his mind.
Reflecting on that breakthrough, Dennis shared some advice.
I think that if we wanted to help the older generation be more content and accept what they've been through, we have to try to do it in a way that they understand, for one, that makes them feel like they're in control, for two. For me to speak to my dad and tell him, like, oh, you went through this, but everything's okay now. We can't fathom what they've been through. I don't know. I don't want to sound hopeless or anything for the older generation, but what I am saying is we should honor what they've been through by retelling their stories. But I don't think that we should fix them if they don't want to be fixed.
It was a long process for Dennis and his dad to forge a new life for themselves. But their story showed this kind of change is possible. Things are shifting for Jennifer, too. That's my friend, who tried to use Parents Are Human cards with her mom at Christmas. She told me her mom decided to try starting therapy again. And now, there are a lot more Vietnamese therapists available, so they were actually able to find someone who feels like the right fit. I asked Jennifer if she knew how her mom might be feeling.
I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that's like, I'm so worried she's gonna not take this seriously, because she's telling me to fill out all the forms as we all do as our parents' secretary, filling out all the forms. And I'm like, okay, Mom, like, please answer this honestly. Like, what symptoms are you feeling? And I'm like, lack of sleep, lack of appetite. And she's like, just check it all. Like, make it sound serious. I'm I'm like, oh, we have to come to this. Honestly, I'm yeah, it's really, it's a new world for me and her to navigate this together.
If we're finally breaking the silence about mental health, I think it's because we're finding ways to face these challenges together. Like Jennifer and her mom, or Dennis and his dad, or my cousin and our family. Sharing the grief that we're carrying from generations of heartbreak. That's the new world we're stepping into. And it's one that holds the possibilities of healing for each of us and all of us.
Thank you to Jennifer, Elizabeth, and Dennis for sharing their stories with us. This episode was produced by Ngoc Bui, with support from Matt Young and our whole team of producers. Editing by James Boo. If you would like to learn more about your family's diaspora story, please check out our conversation kit at vietnameseboatpeople.org/share. It's a deck of cards with questions in both English and Vietnamese to help you start the conversation. You can also check out our website for more stories and resources on how you can participate and share your story. And if you enjoy the show and want to support our mission, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at vietnameseboatpeople.org. Your support helps independent shows like ours continue to amplify stories from our community. I'm Tracy Nguyen Mang, and thank you for listening.